Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at a pair of third-party Joy-Con alternatives that actually surprised me quite a bit, and those are the new Transparent Joy-Con from BinBok. And real quick, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything happening with the channel. And with that out of the way, let's take a look. Now, I had first heard about these BinBok Joy-Con a little while ago. They seem to come up a lot in conversations around the Split Pad Pro as sort of an alternative to those. I was pretty interested at first because they did have some features that the Split Pad Pro lacked, but then I came across quite a few comments of people seeming to be disappointed by the overall build quality, so I sort of forgot about them. But when I saw that BinBok had put out this new transparent version, I thought maybe there's a chance that the overall build quality had been improved, especially because people seem to complain the most about the body of the controller itself. So I thought, well, maybe the new transparent material would be a higher quality plastic, and it actually seems like that might be the case. But anyway, let's open the box up here and take a look. I've already done this, but I figured I'd do it on camera for you guys. So when you open it up, there's a few things in the box. You'll get your little USB-A to USB-C cable for charging, a manual, and this little connector piece that allows you to use the Joy-Con separately from the Switch as a Pro controller alternative, which is another thing that the Split Pad Pro can't do. And here are the BinBok Joy-Con. Let's pop this off here. They do look really nice with that transparent plastic. And there's the backside. And I'll get these slid on this connector piece first, just so you can see what these would look like as a full controller. Pretty nice. But I'll get these attached to the Switch now because I'm sure that's what you're really interested in seeing. And there you go. Really do like the look of these. They do look somewhat similar to the Split Pad Pro when attached, but I can tell you that they feel quite a bit different. And I have to say, for all the Joy-Con alternatives and even some of the grip options for the Switch, I think these BinBok Joy-Con are some of the most comfortable. One of my complaints about the Split Pad Pro was that the overall shape of it, while it is a lot more comfortable than the stock Joy-Con, and I do think the joysticks on the Split Pad Pro are a big improvement, I didn't think the overall shape of it was all that comfortable. The BinBok Joy-Con have a much fatter grip to them, whereas with the Split Pad Pro, you would almost like shave off this whole bottom section. They just feel really flat. These are super comfortable in the hand, really feel similar to something like a Pro controller, maybe even a little bit fatter than the grips on those. I do also really like that these connect to the Switch flush with the screen here. You can see there's a little bit extra that hangs off the bottom, and that's the opposite on the Split Pad Pro. They have it where it raises above the screen on the front here, which is something I didn't really like. Definitely not a big deal. It was just something that just seemed a little weird. And then as far as all the buttons go, the face buttons are nice and clicky. The joysticks feel pretty good. Capture and home buttons are clicky as well, plus and minus buttons. Another thing is these do wake the Switch up, both when disconnected or when attached to the Switch when pressing the home button. And the trigger buttons feel good too. They're maybe just a little softer than the rest of the buttons, but no real complaints there. Nice and big. And then if we flip it over on the back here, you see you've got your mappable paddles here on each side. And then some other function buttons here that serve multiple functions. You can assign turbo functionality. You can also program the back paddles. You can adjust vibration, the level of the rumble, and you can also change the RGB lights, which are around the analog sticks. I'll get it turned on here. So you can see those RGB lights light up around the sticks, which I do think is a really nice look. The BinBok Joy-Con here have pretty much all the same functionality as the stock Joy-Con, aside from NFC support for Amiibo. So that's really the only thing you're missing out on, but you do have rumble, you have motion controls, you have wireless functionality, and then you've got some extra stuff too. You've got these cool RGB lights, and then of course, you know, the turbo, the mappable paddles. So a pretty feature-rich option as compared to the Split Pad Pro, where you're missing rumble and you're missing motion controls and you can't use them disconnected from the Switch. So when I first took these out of the box, the mappable paddles were actually already programmed. The left paddle was set to the capture button and the right paddle was set to the A button, but I actually just turned those off for the moment. But it is nice that there's a good deal of resistance on the paddles, so I'd never had a problem with pressing them accidentally. So to assign the paddles, it's pretty straightforward, but keep in mind you can only assign buttons that are on the same side as the paddle. So just the buttons on the right Joy-Con will work with the right paddle, and just the buttons on the left Joy-Con will work with the left. And you simply press the M button on the back, which is the top button there, and then whichever button you want assigned, and the controller will vibrate a little bit, and then you do the reverse of that to clear it. And then for setting turbo functionality, it's the same as setting the paddle functionality, but you'll just use the T button and then press whichever button you want turbo functionality assigned to. And then you can also use the turbo button to change the LED color around the control sticks. I'll see if I can do that right now. It's a little awkward because you kind of have to claw hand it here. So you press in the T button on the back, and then you have to press down on the analog stick at the same time. And there you go, there's red, orange, yellowish green, green, light blue, dark blue, purple, and then the rainbow color, which I like quite a bit. So I think that's really cool that you can kind of mix and match the colors, or, you know, set them both to matching. It does look really nice, and changing it is super simple. And I think overall for $49.99, at least that's what these go for on Amazon. They do seem to be slightly more expensive on BinBok's website. I'm not sure why that is, but they're $49.99 on Amazon and $55 on BinBok's website. So I think for that price, these do really offer a competitive option against the Split Pad Pro, which goes for about the same. I think I have seen the new colored variants going for $59.99, and you really are just getting a lot more functionality out of these. Like I said, you've got rumble, you've got motion, they can be used detached from the Switch, and these do also charge when attached to the Switch, and you can charge them individually with these USB-C ports on the bottom here. And since these have nothing that goes across the backside, you can also dock the Switch with the BinBok Joy-Con attached. So really, these are a very solid option for someone who's looking for something more comfortable than the Joy-Con themselves. But there are a couple things to keep in mind here. These aren't perfect. I'm not sure that these will beat out using a grip, at least for me, with the official Joy-Con, because with the official Joy-Con, you've got the official buttons, which I do think feel really good, and the HD rumble, which these do lack. And I guess that brings me to my first point about some of the things that I find a little disappointing with these Joy-Con. I did find that the rumble is the cheapest feeling thing about these. It's a bit buzzy, it's kind of loud, so it just feels a little cheap. You can adjust the level of vibration. There are 5 levels. You can have it turned off or set at 30%, 50%, 75, and 100%. I think they default at 50, which felt the best to me. Anything above that was getting a little loud, and that can be distracting when you're playing a game and you're hearing these kind of buzz. And then the other thing that I found a little disappointing was the overall quality of the D-pad. It's just a little bit soft. And I don't know if this was just a wireless issue, but when I was using these wirelessly, I did find that the D-pad sometimes wouldn't respond to my inputs, but I do think that could have been because of my distance from the Switch, and maybe the antenna in these isn't the greatest, but I don't seem to have that problem when they're attached. So just keep that in mind if you're wanting to use these wirelessly. They may be a little unresponsive, but as you can see here, they're working just fine as I'm navigating around the Switch menu. It's just overall it feels a little soft. The rocker in the middle isn't so tall, so you can almost kind of press it in straight in the middle. But for me, I don't use the D-pad a whole lot, and the main benefit that these offer really is the overall comfort, which I can tell you they really knock it out of the park with. So I would say if you're in the market for a Split Pad Pro and you've been considering picking one of those up, I would recommend checking these out instead. You may run into some quality control issues because I don't think BinBok is quite on the level as a company like Hori that has the official Nintendo licensing on the box there. You know, you might run into some quality issues, like I think it's my right Joy-Con, the rumble is a little louder and buzzier than the left. Another thing to mention that is something I noticed, definitely not a big big deal. I do prefer the clickier buttons of the BinBok Joy-Con to something like the Split Pad Pro, although I will say I think the button tension is just a little too high. They say a good controller really disappears in your hands, you know, you're not really aware of it, and I was aware that I was having to use a little bit more effort to press the buttons on these. I do wish there wasn't quite so much resistance before these click in. It's a really minimal nitpick, but it is something I noticed. But other than that, I came away pretty impressed by these because I was expecting them to be a little cheaper feeling overall, but I would say these are much more impressive to me than the Split Pad Pro. And maybe that's just a personal thing, but since these go for the same price or a little cheaper, it's tough to not recommend these since they have so many other features. So I think that's gonna do it. I will leave a link both to the Amazon listing and the official product page on BinBok's website if you'd like to check these out for yourself. Let me know down in the comments if these look good to you or if you have any questions that I didn't cover here in this video. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like on your way out and also consider subscribing. And until the next video, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.